Dance it, baby. Hey, mom, what your mama gonna say? She finally let you party like this, guy.
Does anyone wanna go waltzing in the garden? Does anyone wanna go dance up on the roof? Does anyone wanna go waltzing in the garden? Does anyone wanna go dance up on the roof?
That could be ugly. Thank you all for coming tonight to the annual meeting of the Conservancy membership. We thank you for your support throughout the years. Some of you may have been involved here for 50-some years, as we have been, but we appreciate your passion for our mission and your support throughout the years. I want to also thank the Moran Edwards Asset Management Group, who's sponsoring this evening, and my fellow board member, Tom Moran. Who's supported us financially over the years and in board meetings, and also has produced a bug lover, an entomologist, as a son who's worked at the Smithsonian. So we want to thank them. The Conservancy is really made up of a three-legged stool. One is the amazing, outstanding staff we have that just share this passion and live it every day. The donors who provide the financial resources for us to do our mission, and then the over 600 volunteers, including the unpaid board, who run this organization. I was promised options and dividends when I joined the board, but Dolph, they weren't the kind I was thinking of. So we have a great mission. We talk about our land, our water, our wildlife, and our future, and we implement that through our science, which is world-class science that we do here. We implement that for our education, which reaches out to over 10,000 students during the year. We implement that through wildlife both rehabilitating injured wildlife and trying to preserve the habitats of wildlife. As PJ says, our veterinarian, after we heal these animals, they need a home to go back to. And so we try to make sure that they do have a home to go back to. And then our policy staff really tries to make sure that they have a habitat to go back to, and tries to advocate for our mission in Tallahassee and Washington, D.C., and here locally with our making sure that we have our mission carried out and advocated for at every level of government. We're going to talk about 2017 and the future today. Rob's going to talk more at length about the accomplishments of what happened in 2017. I'm going to touch briefly on something. There was a significant weather event during 2017, you may remember. And Hurricane Irma was really a test for the Conservancy. The staff really, with no air conditioning, no power, no resources, just sweat and tears, lots of sweat. They managed to deal with what was going on campus, and everybody from the intern to our CEO was there. Rob was telling me he was going home at lunch to shower because it was pretty bad here. And I just want to thank the staff for the marvelous job they did in carrying on the mission of the Conservancy during the hurricane. We had to shut down for an extended period, and so there was not just the damage to our campus, but the loss of income from being open. And there was a special hurricane appeal that went out to primarily board members and close friends of board members that raised $500,000 in a couple of weeks that helped do that. So thank you. So I don't know what kind of board my successor is going to have, but I had a terrific board. Without further ado, I've been honored. I guess I will just close on, this is my last night as chair of the board, so a little personal privilege. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve this board, to serve this mission. And it's been an exciting 7 years. My classmate Lynn Slabaugh and I are retiring. Well, actually, the chairman gets to spend an 8th year, so I will spend one more year on the board. But it's just been a wonderful experience. We've accomplished so much. There's so much left to do. One of the initiatives that's happened while I've been on the board that I particularly appreciate and enjoy is we have 26 conservation associates or interns. And we've started a program to endow those. 2 board members have already stepped up to endow those internships so that there will be permanent opportunities for young people to come in and get their feet wet and start their careers in the conservation area. And that's very important to our future, to our present. And if you have any questions about that, I'm sure Paul Seifert would be glad to talk to you about that. Without further ado, I'm going to turn the mic over to Ed Eaton, who's our treasurer.
Thank you, Ken. You weren't here last week when they handed out the options? Jeez, I'm sorry. Darn. The Conservancy had a operating budget last year of $7.4 million for the fiscal year that started in October and ended in September. And as Ken pointed out, we had a slight deficit last year due to a little storm that came through town. But as he said, the board made up the deficit, so we ended up with a balanced budget. It's good to have a board like that, right, Ken? I'm going to try and go through a very quick overview of how the budget of the Conservancy looks. Not too much detail, not too many numbers. I was told to stay away from the numbers. So the first slide I'm going to show, I think, yeah, okay, good. Income sources. There's 4 major sources of income, which account for about 94% of the total income. Our contributions, grants, memberships, net income from the special events like Magic. The balance is from admissions and store sales, which is probably a pretty small percentage of the whole budget. And the contributions to this budget are by 7,000 people, of which I think a lot of you are in the room right now. And we thank you. The second slide shows expenses by function. 78% of our total income goes to the support of the 4 major programs: education, science, policy efforts, and animal rehab. The 12% that's left funds, 12% of the budget is used for raising the funds to make the whole place operate, and the balance 10% for administration. The next slide shows our program support is pretty evenly divided before the 4 major functions that we perform here. Can't be much more even than that, can it? The Conservancy has an endowment that's approximately $21 million at the end of September 2017. The investment portfolio had a return of 12.3% last fiscal year, and we drew about $1.1 million from the endowment to cover some operating costs. Well, I'll be darned. Let's see, we missed the second page here. I feel it's important to share with you that the Conservancy, again, received the 4-Star Charity Navigator Award for last year. This is the highest possible rating by the Charity Navigator. This recognizes the financial health and accountability of the organization, as well as the transparency we have to the public. This rating assures our members and donors that the Conservancy is a good investment for philanthropy, and we're only one of a handful of organizations in the area to receive this high recognition. We also maintained a Gold Star rating of but not for the lighting. from GuideStar. My heavens. Which exists to provide donors with information about the nonprofit mission, legitimacy, and impact and reputation of the organization. I think that's enough of that. I also want to acknowledge all our volunteers that work so hard at this organization. Their time that they spend down here is worth about $1.5 million of funded money. Without them, this place really wouldn't work. So we thank you very much. Our audited financial statements are being prepared at this time. They should be ready in a week or so. If you're interested in looking at them, they are on our website at www.conservancy.org, or you can call the finance office and get a hard copy. Now I'll turn it over to you, Phil, our chair of the Governance Committee.
Thank you, Ed. As always, at our annual meeting, we celebrate and say thank you to members retiring from our board. And today we recognize Jane Pearsall and Lynn Slabaugh, and I'd like to ask them to come forward. Oh, you've got to stand. You must stand in the order that your pictures are. You've got it. Okay. Jane is completing her second full tour of duty on the Conservancy's board and is one of our longest and strongest advocates and supporters. She has been a leader in fundraising for our organization and was an active member of the Capital Campaign Cabinet. Also, as part of that Capital Campaign Cabinet, she was awarded the Conservancy's Eagle Award. Jane, we thank you for your service, your time, and your support. Lynn is completing a 7-year term. She stepped in as our board chair when the unfortunate and sudden passing of Bob Heidrich occurred, and she led our organization remarkably through the 50th anniversary celebration and beyond. Those of you who know Lynn know that she is a champion for the Conservancy's 600-plus volunteers. In fact, during her time as board chair, collectively the volunteers named her as Volunteer of the Month. Lynn, thank you for all you do. You will be missed. Now, one of the things that the Conservancy does is award departing board members a glass eagle statue, and we have have one for each of you tonight.
Thank you.
Jane?
Thank you very much.
We're going to go part of this later. Later. You're welcome. Thank you. Again, to both of you, thank you very much for your service. You will definitely be missed. Also tonight, we have 3 people recommended by the Governance Committee for re-election to the board for a second 4-year term. The members to be elected for that second term are Ed Eaton, Stephanie Goforth, and Jerry Mall. Plus, we have a slate of 5 new candidates to be elected to the board for a first 4-year term. And it is my pleasure to introduce to you these candidates. Starting from the left, Edie Andrew is a longtime Conservancy supporter, and she is a returning board member. She and Ed were responsible for creating the first ever joint endowed position between a regional conservation organization, the Conservancy, and a university, and that would be FGCU. Looking ahead, Edie intends to be part of the efforts to stop fracking and improve water quality. Phil Douglas is a former school administrator. He is a longtime supporter and an advocate for the Conservancy. As an Estero, Florida resident, he leads our partnership with the Brooks communities, helping stay abreast of the issues facing the rapidly developing areas of South Lee County. Barry Frank, who couldn't be with us tonight due to an illness, is a long-term supporter and contributor to the Conservancy's Magic Under the Mangroves Gala. He's an Everglades enthusiast who advocates on behalf of our work to restore the Western Everglades and our clean water efforts. Nick Penniman is a former publisher of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch and a former Conservancy Board chairman. He wrote Nature's Steward, A History of the Conservancy of Southwest Florida, and if you haven't read that book, you can get it here on campus, and it is worth reading. It is excellent. We are thrilled to welcome him and his wealth of knowledge back to the board. J.P. Van Dongen has been a practicing physician in Naples since 1997. He, his wife, and two daughters are very involved in Conservancy activity, and he currently serves on our organization's task force for sea level rise and climate change. Also tonight, we have a special board appointment, Jean Hartman. Jean is a long-term dedicated volunteer in the Van Arks Wildlife Hospital. She serves on the board on behalf of the Conservancy's 600 volunteers, and she will formally be elected by the volunteers at an upcoming Volunteer Connection meeting. She will be replacing Carl Williams, a strong volunteer leader who left this position several months ago due to acquiring a full-time teaching position. Carl, thank you for your service. We welcome you, and may I ask that each of you please stand to be recognized. Members of the Conservancy of Southwest Florida, I present to you our slate of board directors for your approval. I would like to also ask the members to vote tonight and approve our slate of directors as presented. All in favor of the slate as presented, please say aye. Aye. Great. That was incredible. Congratulations to our new board. Finally tonight, I'm happy to share the recommended slate of officers for this fiscal year. Van Williams as board chair, Stephanie Goforth as board vice chair, Ed Eaton as board treasurer, and Jerry Mull as board secretary. As the officers are elected by the board of directors, I would like to ask all board members to please stay briefly after this evening event concludes and meet us at the podium up here so that we may elect our new officers. Now I'd like to invite Rob Moore, our president and CEO, to join me for a special recognition. Should we get him up here?
Yeah, let's get him up here.
Let's get him up here.
Ken,
How about coming on up?
We're not done with you yet.
Yeah. I'd like to take a moment tonight to share with all of you a bit of insight about our board chair, Ken Creer, who has led this organization through some very significant times here at the Conservancy, not the least of which is part of Irma, his favorite storm. Ken's term as board is coming to a close this evening, and we're not saying goodbye because he will remain on the board for one more year. But every 2 years, we elect a new board chair.
Just to add to that, when I first started here at the Conservancy 19 years ago, I remember, I think it was my first week on the job, I met Ken, who was at the old U.S. Trust office, and he was chairing the Planned Giving Committee. Talk about foresight, now that we've got planned gifts that have saved this organization many, many, many times. And Ken, as you know, is an attorney, one of the best in the business of estate planning. And he is a guy that pays attention to details, as you would expect. But he's also someone, I have to say, that really takes time to think about the big picture. Ken has really brought a tremendous amount of vision, and on behalf of the staff and volunteers, we want to say thank you for your leadership, your time, weekly meetings, lots of on-schedule phone calls, late phone calls, and Beth, thank you for lending him to us. But one of the things that I've loved about Ken is he's pretty good with a gavel. I guess they train you in law school for that. So we thought, as a little departing gift, we would give you the gavel that you use so effectively, and hopefully you can find this, and it simply reads, Conservancy of Southwest Florida Board of Directors, staff, and volunteers gratefully acknowledge Ken Career for outstanding leadership as board chair 2016 to 2018. Thank you.
Congratulations, Ken.
Yeah.
I appreciate this and your comments. And to my wife, the judge, mine's shinier.
So when I was chatting with a few of you during the reception, they said, so are we going to hear from you tonight? And I said, well, of course you're going to hear from me tonight, but I have the unenviable job of trying to, in a very short time frame, express what it is your support made possible in 2017, building off what Ken outlined, but also, perhaps even more importantly, what are we going to do in 2018? So I'm really looking forward to a whirlwind tour with you of trying to show you the breadth and depth of the Conservancy, and most importantly, the impact that we've had. Again, one of the great things about nights like tonight, the food, the AV, and everything, is all underwritten by Tom Moran and the Moran Asset Group, so that your dollars go directly to the mission. So we just really want to thank our corporate sponsors. They really make a difference. Irma was certainly the dominant issue for the last quarter. I still think we're all sort of recovering from it in different ways. But it really was an amazing event to see the way the organization came together. But there's another benefit of Irma. I'm an optimist, and one of the great things about Irma, I think, is it reinforced for a lot of people the value and importance of natural systems. What took the brunt of Irma? The mangrove forests of the 10,000 islands. That forest took a beating. In fact, I was just talking to some of our scientific researchers. They were out there yesterday. And if you take a boat down there, you will see that those mangrove forests got beat up very, very hard. Imagine if they were not there. You know, those storm force winds would have had double the impact in our community. So reinvesting in natural systems is the message we are taking to legislators, to business people. This is not an environment versus an economy issue. It's a surviving on the coast issue. So we need to tell that big story. But beyond Irma, 2017 was also a very big year, and I mean literally big. What am I talking about? Yeah. These people that have fun doing this, in fact, they're out today doing this, and that is our incredible science team and what has become the most rapidly evolving program that we didn't even know was going to happen 10 years ago is our Burmese python efforts to eradicate and control the Burmese python, which is an exotic species. Just to give you an idea, Ian and the team have removed over 8,000 pounds of pythons in the last 3 years. They have taken out 3,500 eggs, 3,500 pythons that would have been in our environment that are not because of their team. And I think we should just be all really proud of this incredible program that went from 0 to 100 in 3 years, that is really contributing to some of the best scientific research in the world on this. We are discovering things that no one else in the world absolutely knows. For example, no one knew that pythons were using gopher tortoise burrows to lay their eggs in. We were the first to discover that, and we have a lot of other firsts. And in fact, in the Andrews Science Lab over in our EPC, we have the largest male python ever captured stuffed in a freezer. Why? Because we think it's going to make a great educational interpretive exhibit on pythons that we hope to do in the future. So just know that groundbreaking research, cutting edge researchers, and why does it matter? Pythons are eating their way through the bottom of the food chain. Why rehab animals at the Von Arx Hospital if we're just releasing them to be eaten by pythons? We absolutely must get ahead of this. And if I had my wish come true, we would triple the amount of teams and we would deploy them even more aggressively than what we're doing. So that is something that we must continue. Kathy Worley, who is an incredibly dedicated and hardworking person, she and her team monitor the health of 15,000 mangrove trees. 15,000. Okay, that means going out and individually assessing every single tree in 1 year. That's amazing. And Kathy wrote something recently that really struck me. And she said, "This year we owe a heartfelt thank you to mangroves. Irma was a testament to mangrove strength and ability to reduce wind speed and slow down storm surge. Mangroves met Irma head on." So let's have a round of applause for those mangroves and the people. Let's save them. Thank you, Kathy. 2017 was also a critically important year for our sea turtle program, and it marked an incredible milestone, 35 years of sea turtle monitoring and protection. That stands as one of the longest running monitoring programs in the world, and it happens right here in Southwest Florida. And it happens because of your support. This does not receive some big government grant that we've gotten for the last 35 years. It's the individual donations and checks and grants and support that we've received that has kept that program running. We also opened the official opening of the new Sea Turtle Research Field Station on Key Island that we named after our beloved biologist, David Addison, who has overseen that program for 35 years. So, and I'm happy to tell you, it survived the storm perfectly. It was built up about 8 feet above sea level. The team protected a record number of nests, 429. In addition to Dave's work, Dr. Jeff Schmidt, our research manager, who also loves sea turtles and is an expert, a world-renowned expert on Kemp's Ridley sea turtles, he documented the first migratory route from Southwest Florida, from our beaches to Mexico's beaches of the Kemp's Ridley. That had never been documented before. So a first in scientific history right here at the Conservancy. So those are pretty significant, and thank you, science team. The education team, literally out every day welcoming students, and we reached over 55,000 people last year. 10,000 in formal education programs, but just a huge number of on-site and off-site programs, from evenings at the Conservancy all the way to programs that we've done in schools and in colleges and in universities. And these are really high-quality programs. During the reception, I got to meet a summer camper who now just graduated from Notre Dame. Would you stand up? You're a friend of the Fontana family. Where are you? Here she is. And I think it's so cool that you came back for this. So this is the future, and we are so proud that we helped shape a little bit of your future as you go on into the corporate world and succeed and bring those ethics and those conservation values. So it's a big deal. The education team hosted an Environmental Education Alliance conference. It's the fourth one we've hosted. We did it with FGCU. We held it 3 weeks after Irma. We didn't get power back here until 2 weeks after Irma. This was the first conference held in Southwest Florida after Irma, and we had over 100 environmental educators here in this room doing it. And they were sharing ideas and best practices, and it's all part of the FGCU Conservancy partnership. So that was a pretty amazing accomplishment. Heading over to wildlife, it was obviously an incredible year for the wildlife team. And I'm so proud of what they have accomplished through Irma and before and beyond. I mean, words really cannot express the dedication and the type of effort that it takes to work a hospital through the storm. They actually moved the Wildlife Hospital core operations to our boardroom on the second floor of the Environmental Planning Center when the eye of the storm was less than a quarter mile away from here. You can't pay people to do that type of work. Okay, that is dedication. And the volunteers that showed up the next day and agreed to lend a hand in a hospital that had no power and no water. We had people bringing towels and water from Fort Lauderdale because of the great social media posts and the great work that Greg and the communications team did. So it really is amazing. I could tell you a lot of great stories, but I've chosen one story to tell you about the magic and the incredible work that goes on in there. And this happened in the last year. In the last year, there were some homeowners in North Naples. And they were really delighted. They were watching this incredible red-shouldered hawk that had nested in their backyard. And concern grew one day when the adult hawk was no longer seen attending to the chicks that were been born very recently. And the adult was perched in the same spot in the tree for 24 hours. Very unusual. So the homeowner called the Von Arx Hospital, and Joanne and her staff answered the call. And they were looking for guidance on what to do. And they worked right away to retrieve that adult from the tree, which is not an easy thing to do. The hawk, we found, was extremely weak and fluttered to the ground, which enabled the family to basically put the hawk in a box and transport her to the hospital. And realizing when she got here that the parent were no longer on the nest and the babies needed to be retrieved as well. So we called Ian Orlikoff, who is the key owner of Signature Tree Care. You probably saw their trucks around a lot during Irma. And he adjusted his work schedule to help retrieve and make the rescue possible because they had to get up into the tree, which is quite difficult. So he went to the site and he retrieved the baby hawks from the nest, 3 of them. So the homeowners made a second trip in order to get the babies, to get them back here. And one baby was in very poor condition and died, unfortunately, right away. But there were 2 surviving. So they were placed in animal intensive care units in our nursery at the hospital. They were pale, they were dehydrated, but they had a great appetite and they seemed to be responding to treatment. So as far as the staff can recall, this is the first time that we've ever cared for an adult bird and its siblings at the same time. The adult's hawk situation was critical. She was given antibiotics, Chinese herbs, and placed on oxygen in an ICU unit. Well, the exact cause of the illness was not known. Our vet monitored the adult, Dr. PJ, very, very closely. And the hawk was incoherent. It was almost lifeless when it was here at the hospital. But she reacted whenever she heard the babies calling. So the cages were right next to each other. They were in intensive care units right next to each other, and they showed that sign of life. So after several days of supportive care, the adult hawk made an astounding recovery. The mother was able to be released. And we cared for the babies, and they were also released. And all that care, all that help from the volunteers, from Ian at Signature Tree Care, from the homeowners, that's the magic of what happens here when we all work together to make something really incredible happen. And I can tell you there's 3,700 more stories like that. So to Joanne and her team, thank you for what you do, and thank you for helping us. So 3,700 is a lot of animals. A lot. I'm afraid to say it's close to a record, and our key goal is to prevent those injuries from happening. That is why last year we opened up the new public enclosures, the Von Arx Hospital expansion that was accomplished with Dolphin Sharon and the help from the state of Florida and many others. And we also added all new exhibits in the Sapaki Wildlife Exhibit Hall to educate people on ways to prevent the injuries. We want to stop them from happening, not just treat them when they get here. And so we're very proud that we were able to launch that. We also launched a major campaign, and it's called Through Their Eyes. And it's, I don't know if we have a picture of it, but it's an incredible campaign. And why it's incredible, it was actually developed by students. It was developed by the University of Miami School of Communications. They took this on as a project. And you might remember, these are black, stark pictures, and they have an animal's head, but on a human body. And it's basically, imagine what it would be like if your home was destroyed. Imagine what it was like if your mom was hit by a car. Where would you go? And it's a very emotional connection. And that has been an award-winning campaign. So we're looking forward to running that campaign more in the coming year. Of course, policy is on the front end. Legislative session just started this week. Hooray, I think. We'll see. But 2018 is an election year, so that's a good thing because everyone wants to get the green vote. And we're not going to give them to it easy, right? Make them do the right thing. The policy team really did do a big job in 2017 of defeating some oil regulatory bills that we think were too weak and very deficient. And they're hard at it again right now. We have met with many, many of them. And the Conservancy also was deeply involved, along with Audubon and all of our other partners, on the passage of SB 10, the $1.6 billion reservoir that we have wanted for so long. And that was finally accomplished last year. But it hasn't been built yet. So until it's built, we're going to be watching them. But we do need to send the water south and get the pressure off of our estuaries. We also launched the Estuaries Report Card, which is a 5-year study. This is an unbelievable piece of work. 700-page technical report, but a 10-page summary just for you. Tells you your grades. Did you do well? Did you have to go back to summer school? What remedial action, Phil, do they have to take? And the answer is our estuaries are not in great condition. However, the solutions are known, and we identify the solutions. So it's been very influential. We also worked for another huge accomplishment. I'm so proud of the policy team that led the effort, which was the permanent conservation of 4,000 acres of Edison Farms. Every acre of Edison Farms is a wetland. Every acre of wetland stores 1.5 million gallons of water. Think of what Irma would have done if Edison Farms and those 4,000 acres of wetlands were not there. It would have made a bad situation a lot worse. That took 10 years to get done. So one of the things I just want to impart is just the tenacity and the ability to stay the course. That's what makes the difference for the Conservancy, and we can get big things done. So we're born out of that tenacity. I think our founders were very tenacious, visionary people, and we like keeping that reputation as science-based, common sense conservation. So what are we going to do in 2018? I got 2 minutes here, and I'm going to try and tell you. I'm going to break this up into water, land, and wildlife. So we are going to make sure they implement and build SB 10, and that's happening right now. We are in Tallahassee working on that. I'll be actually going tomorrow to the Everglades Coalition Conference. I'll be meeting with our state representatives to ensure they do the best possible job. We are going to continue to protect and restore mangrove forests. We are going to launch with the News Press the second Save Our Water Summit, which the first one was sold out in less than 2 weeks and brought a lot of awareness about the problems to Southwest Florida. On the land side, no issue is more important to everyone in this room than the proposed growth plans for Eastern Collier County. And I'm so grateful that Nick Penniman is back on our board, because Nick has an incredible knowledge, our policy staff have an incredible knowledge, and I will assure you the Conservancy is going to be holding a very hard line on this to have a sustainable level of development on a compressed area, not sprawling cities and development with $500 million of new roads on primary panther habitat and aquifer recharge areas. That is untenable. It cannot be allowed to happen, and we will be fighting that every step of the way. South Lee County, thank you. South Lee County faces the same situation, and we are going to be working just as hard with South Lee County to prevent the sorts of things like mining on aquifer recharge areas. Those two things just don't go along together. And then finally, I'm really pleased to tell you today, actually, that Senator Bradley's bill to put $100 million into Florida Forever, the Amendment 1 dollars we all were promised and the legislature abandoned on us in the last 2 years. He is finally taking the charge and leading it, and there will be $100 million we hope that the governor will sign into law to finally fund Florida Forever, the award-winning land conservation program. And I can assure you there are parcels in Southwest Florida that are very high on that list that we are advocating. We are meeting with the landowners, and we want to see those happen. So we must get that done as well. On wildlife, the number one threat, we have to get after the pythons at a higher and more aggressive level. We have to preserve urban preserves. Yeah, go back to that slide. That was great. That's the award-winning campaign. Isn't that great? We didn't pay a penny for that campaign. It was all done in-house and with the students. That was the best part. So we have to protect, we have to educate. And on the future, I'm really excited to introduce someone else to help me to talk about the future, because everything we do is about protecting land, water, and wildlife, not just for today, but for the future. Because if we don't protect those things, what type of future are we going to have? We are not going to have a future where we can go fishing, where we can enjoy the majesty of the Everglades. We just cannot take it for granted. And so it's going to be up to the next generation to really help steward that. And one of the great programs we do to engage the next generation is our intern program. So I'd like to invite Abby Swisher, who is an intern with the Education Department, to come up and share a few words about her experience as an intern at the Conservancy. Come on up.
What a lovely audience. It is so nice to see so many wonderful faces in here. Welcome to the Conservancy. As Rob mentioned, my name is Abigail, and I am an environmental education intern. I recently graduated from Penn State with a degree in recreation parks and tourism management, and I grew up on the shores of South Jersey, running around, playing at the beach in my backyard, enjoying the wildlife that we have. And with the help of my parents, they really instilled in me a passion for wildlife, which is something that I still carry with me and something I hope to translate over to our guests that we have. But what really helped me solidify that I wanted to be an educator was attending a lecture given by Jeff Corwin, who is an animal activist and naturalist. And he talked a lot about his career and highly inspired me to want to go out and kind of do what he does. So I found the Conservancy last January. A friend of mine interned here. I visited in January. Less than a week later, I applied. And last March, I started my internship, which has been a very short 10 months here. It does not seem like 10 months at all. It feels like a lifetime ago. It does. In the last week, I have been heavily reflecting on my experience here because in a short 2 weeks, my experience and my internship is coming to an end. Sorry. It has been an absolutely amazing experience, and it has helped me grow, not only personally, but professionally as well. Being an intern, no matter what department you work in, provides us with a firsthand experience of what it's like to work in the conservation field. With the information that we gain from the other departments, the education team then gets to go out and educate our wonderful guests on how they can make a positive impact on the environment and how to protect what we love so dearly here in Florida. Here, I have gotten to inspire the next generation of children to want to go out and make a difference, and hopefully I have the opportunity more to inspire them to become maybe the next scientists or lawmakers for Southwest Florida. I've often been asked what my favorite memories and moments have been as an intern, and genuinely, that is probably the most difficult question to answer, because in 10 months, you rack up a vast amount of memories with friends here and also with working with a ton of cool children. For me, it was never the big moments that really stuck, but it was the small little ones that really mattered to me. It was watching children light up when they learned something new or remembered a fact from the last time they were here. It's watching kids get super excited when Luna swims across their face or the fish swim really fast in the patch tank. It's on a field trip getting a random hug from a first grader or having a third grader tell you that you have the coolest job ever, which makes me feel very proud. And it's also inspiring two young sisters to become the next educators and activists for not only Florida, but the rest of the U.S. These are just a few of the memories that I have obtained while working here. And as my internship comes to an end, it has provided me with so many memories and long-lasting friendships. It has been an extremely fulfilling experience, which is something that I look to take with me in the future. The Conservancy not only has provided me with lasting connections in the field, but also a great sense of pride and confidence. It has genuinely been such a true honor to work for such an amazing organization that works so hard and is so dedicated to protecting and taking care of what the Conservancy is all about. So I wanted to thank quickly the volunteers for doing an amazing job at being our front to our organization, as well as all of the board members for doing an amazing job. And I wanted to thank you all for for your support of such a wonderful organization, and as well as the intern program, which provides us with an amazing firsthand experience. And without your support, we would not have, as an intern, this wonderful opportunity, nor would interns in the future. Thank you.
I'd say the future looks pretty bright. We love our interns. They're amazing. Just to give you an idea, we get hundreds of interns applications and only 30 succeed in coming here. And so if you want to change someone's life and set a career passion like Abby has, talk to Paula, right? We got lots of needs. And you really can make a difference. I mean, these people, for a relatively modest cost, you can actually shape someone's career. And not just they may become conservationists here, but they might go back to Chicago, the West Coast, Africa. They may be the person that solves the riddle of a species not becoming extinct. And so you never know. And that's the sort of impact it is. So talking about leadership and believing, we're going to transition now for the fun part of the night. And we're talking about our 2018 Eagle Award recipients. I have to say, the highlight of working at the Conservancy of Southwest Florida for me personally is meeting people like these three incredibly visionary, passionate, and thoughtful conservationists. And some people always stand out, and these three have really stood out in my minds, and in the minds of all of our former board chairs who got to vote, and in the mind of the entire board of directors who also got to vote. And these women embody the spirit and the passion of the Conservancy mission. So I'd like to share with you a little video to honor them. Wasn't that fun? Thank you so much. Dr. Jeff Lee, by the way, on violin. Thank you for lending your talents. We are really pleased to welcome friends and family members of our honorees here today from Edie's and Nancy's families. And we would really, I think we're going to do the other piece after, correct? Yes. Okay, so I would like to ask our three honorees to join me here, and we're going to have a little, I won't call it a fireside chat because it's Florida. We're going to have a little conversation and learn a little bit more about these three incredible leaders. And so please do join me up on the stage. Yeah, come on this way. This is stairs through.
I never had a violin playing. So glad you're back on the board. I usually play those at Sue. Good to see you.
The lesson here is that if you take care of the Conservancy, we'll take care of you, and we'll play songs for you too. Please come on up, and I'll sit here. And, well, I've been looking forward to this for a long time to have all three of you here together. By the way, I've never done this before. I've never been, I feel like a television host or something. But if I were a television host, this is what I'd want to be talking about the incredible passion, commitment, and dedication to the mission. And so I had a chance to talk a little bit with each of you, and I've had the pleasure, by the way, of knowing each of them for almost 20 years. And it has been a remarkable journey. And one of the things I love about the Conservancy is that all of us here, we stand on the shoulders of giants that have been doing this for a long time before us. And there is some historical connections here. I'm going to start with Nancy because there's a family connection in addition to your own passion. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit about your mom and her role in the Conservancy.
That's the whole reason I'm here.
In more than one way.
Is this on? Yes,
Yes,
I
it
guess
is.
it is. Well, that's where it all started. Many of you have heard this story, so bear with me. But anyway, what's his name? Merrihew.
Bill Merrihew.
Got a hold of Mother when 40 years ago, 50 years ago, and they had their chat, and then they got their check. And so it was really easy. It really.
You taking notes, Paul?
Where's Paul? You ought to learn something. Yeah, right. Anyway, so that's when I started hearing about the Conservancy. And she just talked and was really sold on the whole thing. And began to work here in the Nature Center, because that's what they wanted the money for, was to build the Nature Center. And she began to work in the Nature Center and did for a long time, fell in love with the children. I've got stacks of letters that the children wrote to her, and she just saved them, and she talked about it, this, that, and the other thing. Well, then the poor dear started giving change. Well, back then in the Nature Center, you took the money in the Nature Center, not out in a welcome center. And the poor dear started giving change back for $10 bills instead of a $1 bill type of thing. She was getting macular degeneration. So they decided that maybe they'd have to give her another volunteer job. So they did, but she still kept coming. They were very good to her. She traveled on their trips that they went to the Bahamas. I went with her. She had to have a companion. That's where I got started, because she needed a companion. So, and then if I couldn't do it, why, good old staff came by, and a couple of the staff would stay with her or do this or that, or an intern, and they were all very good to her. So this was her life and the children that she helped in the Nature Center. She loved talking to the children. So then when I came down here and wanted to get involved somewhere, it was only natural. I came right over to the Conservancy, began to get involved in the Nature Center. And also at that time, they were beginning to talk about, are we going to sink or swim? There was this other outfit that was being built down there in Rookery Bay on Collier's Street,
State of Florida.
right, whatever. That was all a lot of government money, or all government money. We were not. We were pulling out of you people's pockets. Or something. So there's quite a difference. So anyway, sink or swim, sink or swim. And also I noticed that, can I mention the YES program?
Yes, absolutely. One of our great education programs.
Well, they were talking about, and there were children on other sections of Naples have never seen a shell, never been to the Gulf, never been in the water, done this, done that, and all this type of thing. And so they wanted to do something and get something started, and began talking about it. So all I could think of, okay, I'm tired of your talking about it. Mother loved children. That's where the money came from for me. So let's do something. And we started the YES program, Your Extra Special. And that's what it was. And then the kids came, and the teachers and the superintendents helped to pick the leading students and do all that. So that was really very, very good.
And some of those kids, I bet today, their lives have been probably, like Abby said, they've probably been changed because of the opportunity just to swim in the Gulf, which was less than a mile from their home, but no one had taken them.
Right, right. So then, and I forget what the rest of them were, but anyway, I just kept on volunteering.
Well, they were all very grateful.
And anyway, that's what got me started and got me going. And then I think when Kathy was here running the place, they were talking about, well, sinking or swimming. And finally I realized, you got to swim. So once again, Mother, gave me the money, she loved the children, let's go for it. And you did swim, and look what they've done today in the building, and decided to swim. And I've been volunteering then in the Nature Center, and then down on the boat dock. Hooray for the boat dock. Nobody, nobody in all of the first part of this program mentioned the boat dock.
It's our single largest volunteer center.
I'll bet you half of the people here are from the boat dock. But anyway.
Well, I want to make a connection to the Nature Center because you were so driven by the Nature Center and the need to rebuild it. And Sudi, I can remember meeting you for the first time, and I can remember Sudi being on the board, and I may have been here 2 or 3 years, and I remember there was discussions about whether we should have a nature center, and I remember you feeling rather passionate about that. Do you want to share a little bit about your connections with the Conservancy and your passion?
Well, I certainly was. I had the feeling, in Cincinnati, I had been involved with the Nature Center there, which had some input to this because I knew what value it had, plenty of value. And so it was very important to me to see to it that we provided that down here. And because we all had our own thing that was special, the boats or the whatever they were, but it was really battle royal. Anyway, we won. And we got a nature center. We also got a lot of other things, which were very important to us. And we've been very fortunate. I came down here a long time, when you were very young. and some,
He was young, wasn't
some
he?
friends of ours lived next door to what's his name, the man.
Merrihew?
Merrihew. And of course, Merrihew inspired everybody.
Everybody.
Everybody should have known him. You'd see him at the yacht club having lunch with somebody. You knew that we were then going to do pretty well that year. And he was really something. But it was a lot of fun. I felt that it was more fun. I enjoyed working with the people here, and they're my friends, and I really felt that this was a remarkable organization, well run and caring, and we all had fun doing it. So I think thank you very much, all of you who did it.
Well, you helped us. And Edie, just following the stream of the Nature Center, I think one of the first times you had really gotten connected was also something happening at the Nature Center. I think it was an evening talker, I believe.
Well, I got involved with the Conservancy much later than these two. And but when we started coming to Naples back in 92, 93, I had a couple of young grandchildren, and my son from the Chicago area had heard about the Jason program, and they were doing that in the Nature Center. So he said, we have to take the kids over to the Nature Center when we had learned about the Conservancy and what was here, and it would be of interest to the children. So we came over and checked it out. And then my son, I think, was interested in seeing that being taken to other communities and cities, and it was a very early education thing of environments that could be viewed via TV in schools and what have you. So that's what really brought me here, and it was thanks to my son. And so then I made sure as the family expanded and we spent more time down here, I made sure that the family came here to see what was going on. And I might say that I've been involved with water my whole life. I was born and raised in Los Angeles. My father worked for the Water and Power Department, was always up checking on the aqueduct and how the water was getting to LA and making sure that the aqueduct was okay. And so then we used to spend our summers down at Newport Beach on Balboa Island. So I've always loved water. And so I guess the fact that that's one of the big things here that we're trying to protect.
Absolutely.
I think that was a big interest of mine.
And you shared a really neat story that tied your father and a flyer he got with a small little proposed actually what we all know was once going to be the world's largest subdivision in the Western Everglades.
He got all kinds of ads and brochures about the land in Southwest Florida. You got to buy a lot and buy a lot and build a home. You'll be in the Everglades, and I fortunately he didn't see that he fortunately didn't
This
fall
was-
for all of that.
This was the
But-
Mackle brothers, the
Yeah.
failed scheme to
Yeah.
basically build the
So-
subdivision, which is now so.
and they were
Universally got
reaching to
sucked into that.
California, trying to sell Californians on Florida.
So isn't that an interesting tie-in? And
Yeah.
now today, that is ground zero for Everglades restoration.
Right.
So isn't that
Right.
amazing? That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I guess, Nancy, just coming back to you, was there an aha moment for you to think that
Oh, what?
an aha, sort of like a moment you talked about sink or swim? Sorry, maybe that's a Canadian euphemism.
Yeah.
But you sort of said sink or swim, and so when we first met, and we were talking about a new vision for the campus, what was it that really got you from thinking about it, saying, I want to help fund the planning for this thing and get it off the wheels? I mean, what was it that really motivated you to take it from idea to action?
Got tired of hearing about it for 10 years.
Folks, these are all action ladies, right? These are.
I mean, I did. I totally got tired. I said, you need to do it or not do it. Here's the check. And so I did it because I thought of if you do it with education, because that was mothers interested in the children. And let's get those children here, and all this education. So here, do it. See if something happened if I give you this check. And then somebody told me that somebody the next day on the board gave $1 million, and somebody did the next day. I thought, well, maybe it worked.
Well, I think you're all up here because you're not afraid of stepping up first. Sudi, for you, I can think of some pretty special moments. I can think of one in particular, but for you, is there sort of a special memory that really you hold sort of near and dear, or something that really strikes you as important? I remember a little surprise your kids did for you here once.
Well, my kids were very nice. My kids are very eco-minded, thank heavens, because it would be better off if they were, since they have to live with me. But
That's true.
yes, it is. And so we have, they've given the eagle that's out front, and that's because they thought that was nice to do for my birthday. And so I hope everybody's children do the very same thing for them.
This is the Bronze Eagle in honor of all volunteers. Well, her kids worked with myself and some other, Betsy and Sharon, and they surprised her. They didn't know the kids were going to be here. They didn't know what the statue was. Kathy Spalding, and Kathy Spalding is a former Eagle Award winner, as you know, and she passed away very unfortunately 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And she was a magnificent person. And I remember when we unveiled that with your kids, and that was pretty special. And,
it really was.
I thought you have helped make this eagle fly through all of your decades of work, and that was pretty remarkable.
No, they've all been out to see the birds come in, and down in the water. We've had a lot of fun down here, and we have felt that it was worthwhile.
I must say, Sudi is also an emphatic good fundraiser. When she gets an idea set, it was very successful. And
I spent a lot of time on the golf course getting $100 from every one of them.
Some of them I remember were bigger than $100 too.
Well, in those days, $100 was okay. These days, I don't think you'd get to first base.
It takes 8,000 checks to run the
more money
Conservancy.
than 100.
Right.
And Edie, for you, is there a moment with you and your family, or something that really struck you as you just felt like very good about what you were doing, committing so much time and effort to this
Well,
cause?
I think when you and Andrew came at me about
We were very polite. Please don't be scared off. We're very polite guests.
those were the wrong
Don't
words.
give out
I
your number.
apologize. But anyway, you approached me about. I don't know. This being,
Okay, that was important.
But I think you somehow knew that I was very interested in education, because my husband and I had been very involved with several liberal arts colleges, and I just felt the education of children about environment was going to become very important, and I thought it was lacking probably, and so you came and talked to me about your ideas of hooking up with the university, and I really liked that, and so we just decided that the education here would be something we would enjoy supporting, and I'm thrilled the way it's taken a while to get where we're at now, and it took a while to find the right person to run that kind of partnership.
Yeah, it takes 10 years, doesn't it?
Yeah, it did.
They are also a little impatient for the right reasons.
So anyway, but I'm thrilled that I got involved with that, and to see it evolve, and I hope I'm sure going forward it'll be even better.
It will continue to grow,
Yeah.
and it will. Well, I know that Nancy and Edie have a couple of friends and family here, but because this was somewhat of a surprise for the award winners, Sudi's family couldn't be here. But your kids love you so much, they wanted to just say a little something to you because they couldn't be here. So let's roll it.
Did you know?
Oh, maybe we can get sound on there.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Are they in Cincinnati? Are they all in Cincinnati?
Yeah, my great.
We're gonna rewind that and try that again.
Great grandchildren in
Oh
the
my
front.
gosh.
Oh, my word. How
We may do it privately over a cocktail if we can't get the sound, but AV folks who want to try that again? They're going to try it again. You know, it always works perfectly before you all walk in here. It's all the magnetic energy from all of you that does something to our wonderful... Okay, we're going to view that after, Sudi, but we have a special thank you from your kids that couldn't be here, and we're going to have a drink, and we're going to figure out the technology piece of this, so I apologize. But you have a lovely family, and I've had a chance to meet your kids, and they are really remarkable
The
family.
ones in the front are great grandchildren.
Oh my gosh. And how many?
Who's this?
So
That's my daughter-in-law. That's one.
let's
of
go
the
ahead and take a
3.
pause on that, but we're gonna revisit that, and we're gonna come and we're gonna do it privately after. But you are remarkable.
Thank you, my goodness. That was so cute of them, wasn't it?
And I just want to say thank you to each of you. I have truly the honor and the privilege of being up here. I know I speak for everyone in this audience that what you have done for this community, and I know that you've done a lot of things in the other communities, your other hometowns, and it's an honor for me to be able to be here and to recognize you on behalf of the Conservancy. And I am privileged to have known each of you personally. You have been wonderful friends, not just the Conservancy, but to me personally as well. And we're grateful. And I hope all of you, it's really not scary when we knock on your door. You know, we're not coming after you. But
Just get out the check.
but it's inspiring, and we get our energy. I can tell you, the staff, we get our energy from you, from your passion, your enthusiasm, and when we dream, you're there to say, make that dream become real. And I think,
And we are grateful to you.
Yes, I
Wow.
was just going to say, we owe, it's wonderful to be working with you. Yeah.
You're so positive.
Yes.
You're very
yeah,
upbeat.
your energy and your vision and the hard work, the hours that you put in to make this place work along with all the staff.
People in
yeah.
these kind of organizations get negative so often.
Right.
And you
And you're our friend as well.
Yes.
Did you hear that, Sharon? Thank you. I got to say, working here with the staff and the volunteers and the board, it's an honor and a privilege. And I have to say, Sharon is really the one that keeps me going. She's the executive assistant to the board and the staff, and she knows all the donors. She knows all these three ladies very well.
Thank you, Sharon.
But I hope you found some inspiration in our program tonight. I hope you feel really good about when you write that check to the Conservancy, or you advocate for us, or you volunteer, you know you're making a difference and you're being part of something that is making a huge impact to protect the thing that we all love, the reason why we're here, our land, water, and our wildlife. So with that, we're going to conclude the evening, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah.
But we're going to ask the Board of Directors to stay. So thank you, and we'll hope to see you again very soon.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.